Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at itchjessino. And we are going to be reacting to our game that we won 1-0. Arsenal beat Watford 1-0, and it was never comfortable. It was never comfortable. I honestly felt like when the game was, the lead up to the game for me was what made me nervous because they're giving Arteta interviews and he's doing all these interviews about how we're improving. Josh Kroenke's doing interviews talking about how all he wants to do. People are starting to respect us a little bit more, and when these games are coming around, they expect us to just beat Watford. And I'm thinking to myself, this is a banana skin waiting to happen. That's what I was thinking. From minute one, I was thinking this could go wrong because everything seems to be going in our direction. And to be honest, I didn't care. I just wanted to see a consistent performance level from what we saw against Aston Villa and Leicester. And boy, it wasn't the same smooth performance in terms of, playing good football and, back to front, playing out of the back. But the performance level in terms of everybody working as a team to get this win over the line was exactly the same. And that's all I can really ask for. 1-0 to the Arsenal is something that I always will take because in the end of the day, we're going into international break in the top five on a serious run going into some more difficult fixtures. So we didn't drop points needlessly, and that's what's important to me. Before we get started with our winners and our losers, bringing my panel in, I just want to thank you guys, like literally from the bottom of my heart, for supporting the channel the way that you guys have. There's some people that I see every single time that I press go live, and that means the world to me. We are on basically like the doorstep of 5,000 subscribers, and I couldn't be happier. Like, I am ecstatic and I am humbled. So thank you guys so much. And we're going to get into another very fun, probably thought-provoking instant reaction right now because I have some things to talk about in terms of there were some winners, some really big winners, and there were some big losers today. So we're going to talk about those and also learned and confirmed. There's about 35 of you guys watching on all platforms. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'm going to bring in George. Hey, George.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. I cannot complain. 1-0 to the Arsenal, another win in the books, going into international break in fifth.
10
Um,
unbeaten?
yeah, 10 unbeaten. I mean, it is what it is. Does it really matter, if the football is brilliant or not, if you get the result? I mean, we're not always going to play at 100%, are we?
No, you're not, but I mean, I don't know. I thought that was a pretty dominant performance. I think the scoreline, look, we left goals on that pitch, right? Like when you're looking at a lot of those chances, Oba had a night to forget or a day to forget, in my opinion. Whether it was the pen, the Odegaard chance, he just wasn't sharp. Even at the beginning, like the first 6 minutes with the offside Saka goal, I thought he messed up his first touch. So he had a really off night. I mean, look, again, though, I really think the control of spaces, the possession we had, bar maybe the 82nd minute to maybe the 90th, where it was a little bit weird in possession. I wasn't happy with that, but youthful exuberance. I think beyond those minutes, though, I thought we controlled the match excellently. I think Claudio Ranieri went for a very low or mid block. Really, he wanted to close down space. But ultimately, we kind of left goals on the pitch there, and that was more on us. But I felt that we dominated possession. I haven't checked the stats quite yet, but I would imagine that was another 56 to 60% one, and that's what I was looking for. I wanted the 4-0. It should have been 4-0, but the performance, at least we sustained pressure, and that was really what I was after, as opposed to necessarily getting that 4-0 that everybody really probably wanted. But I thought the performance was there. And look, Ainsley, I have a lot to talk about with him because for me, wow, man of the match for me. And it was close with Ben White, but I just think that chance with Ramsdale, that miscommunication was tough for me because Ainsley was on it all game. And you just love when
Yeah.
he switched on. You can't guarantee
Yeah.
it, but when he's on, he's on.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get to Ainsley and Ben White when we talk about our winners, and maybe some others when we talk about our losers. But before we get to that, I'm going to bring in Io. Hey, Io, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. You're right. You're right, George.
Good,
Good,
good.
mate.
Can't complain. But I do want to start off with learned and confirmed because there was something that was confirmed to me today from the basically when the whistle blew. For me, we talk about the left backs a lot. Tavares has been so good in the last couple of games. I think he was okay today. Tierney, for me, is still our starting left back. But going into today's game and seeing that we kind of reverted back to Ainsley dropping into the left back spot and Tavares starting really high, what I think is hurting our left backs is not necessarily one being better than the other, but since Tavares has been in the team, we haven't been playing like that. And today, I think he struggled without being able to run into space. I think when he's able to arrive late into space, he's a lot better than when he's up high receiving the ball right on top of people. And Tierney, I think, suffers from that as well, being up super high and somebody else playing left back, not being able to run into space. They're both really good players, kind of running into that half space and having that space, like in timing their runs. I think they both suffered from that. So for me, it's not necessarily about one being better than the other. They definitely have different skill sets, but I'm not a fan of the midfielders dropping into left back because I think it also hurts our left backs when they're so high and easy to mark. So it didn't hurt us today like it did in past games. I think what Arteta was trying to do was to avoid the blockage in the middle. You could see that Watford were pretty heavily, like a lot of men in the middle of the pitch. So we were trying to exploit them on the wings. That's great, but I did think that we didn't have a lot of centrality in the first half in terms of on the top of the box. We were doing a lot of crosses into the box instead of penetrating like we did in the second half, where it was a little bit more of like intricate passing at the top of the box versus cross and let's pray and see what happens. So I think a lot of that is just about the way that we decided to play, empty out the middle. Even Lacazette was playing way off on the right, and I think the left back suffer a little bit from that. But George, I want to get your outlook on that. Did you see something similar or did you see something different?
No, similar. I think we went back to a different build-up. So in the past two games, we've had this build-up where it was more of like a 2-4-4, and the idea was we weren't making our midfields come deep. We had our pivot nice and close together, and they were clearly high up. But in this game, we definitely started with that kind of 3-2-5 that we've seen in previous ways with Lokonga dropping deep. And I think both Tierney and Tavares, to be fair, they're not tight space players. And what I mean by that is they need space to run into, both of them. They don't, Nuno Tavares doesn't have as much of a consistent first touch as well. He is good on the run. He can go in and out, but his first touch is inconsistent. And so when you kind of put somebody high and wide like that, you basically ask them to keep separation consistently. And I just don't know if that's necessarily his game. He's more somebody that you want running onto the ball. And by the way, Kieran is very similar. He's a big space runner, so you need to give him space. And I just don't know if having him constantly high and wide is suited to their games. I had a slightly different learned and confirmed, but for the pattern play, I just think Lacazette being in the middle brings a different kind of dynamic. And, this game he was much more wide, but I think that was to get Bukayo on the inside. And that was because really what we wanted to do, I think, was keep high and wide on the left, but overload on the right. And we were looking to attack down the right in final action. But I just think a couple people were kind of off in terms of their foot. That block that, Watford did with Ranieri, it was very similar to kind of his Leicester light. In one of my previews, I did say we're probably going to see a 4-4-2 version and a little bit of a mid block, and we're going to have no space in the middle, but we just didn't have the intricacy in the center like City do to overload. So City do this, by the way. They have their players go wide in the channels and they overload in the center. And we tried to do something similar, but I just feel it didn't quite work as well. There were still a lot of chances. I just wasn't a fan of keeping Nuno high and wide. I felt that kind of removed a little bit of his game. And in fact, in the second half, when it did become a bit more stretched, a little bit more transition, he looked a lot better for me. So yeah, I would probably agree with that. I had a little bit of a different confirmed though for me, but I
Go
think
ahead.
yeah, for me it was basically Ainsley Maitland-Niles can play in midfield. I've been saying it for quite a while. I think this kid, when he's switched on, he's a scary prospect. He is somebody that deserves to be in this squad. Again, you can't guarantee that. Again, I'm not going to whitewash his past, but when you look at him, that was a mature performance. Like throughout the entire 90 minutes, I felt Lokonga was a little bit more one touch, two touch that he needed to be. He didn't necessarily understand what the game state needed, whereas Ainsley took the role. And of course, look, he's like 1 or 2 years older, so there is a level of experience he has. But I just felt Ainsley finally took reins of that midfield. He was great in transition, constantly covering for people, making the right pass selection, both deep and higher up the pitch, something I can't always say with him. And so it was confirmed to me that he absolutely can play in midfield. He was my man of the match throughout the entire 90 minutes. And, we've seen this at Old Trafford. We've seen these big performances from him. But I think his challenge has always been consistency. But I always say to people, youth trajectory is never linear. When somebody matures, they can mature at different times. And if he was to mature, this is an option that we need, guys, because we have AFCON coming up. And I think that was my big point on this big spiel. It's confirmed to me that we have an option. I feel like when we looked at this team, everyone was fearful because this was potentially an AFCON pair where, we have to find a solution to no Partey, right? And I just think it's confirmed to me that Ainsley can play the role. He's diligent enough in his marking. He's not loose when he's concentrated. He can do it. Now, can you get that every game? I'm not too sure. Maybe you need a little bit more encouragement. But for me, it was confirmed that he could definitely play in midfield.
Io, for you, we'll just roll into our winners because I think we're going to talk about Ainsley just a little bit longer. But does this performance from Ainsley make you think that going into January, we may be okay not to bring in a midfielder? A lot of Arsenal fans are very we need a midfielder in Jan. We need a midfielder in Jan. We don't know what the future holds for El Neni, but regardless, he will be gone for AFCON as well. Tomiyasu will be out. Granted, probably be coming back, but maybe not 100%. Does this give you the confidence that Ainsley can do it, or do you still think that we need some reinforcements in Jan?
I mean, yeah, it's a good question, Jess. I would say yes, probably, only because Ainsley, I concur totally with George. He had a smashing performance today, but consistency, can we see, when the chips are down, not only when you're playing a team where it's fairly comfortable, I think it's fair to say we were quite in control today, but when the game goes against us, can Ainsley really make that difference, and question marks about that. So I think we definitely need to have a sniff around in Jan to see if we can get a midfielder. Certainly think a striker. I think we do need a striker. I love Laka, I love Orba, but I don't know. There's something there. I don't want to diss them because, sometimes you have those sort of games, but we just need something a bit more there, some bit more lethality in front of goal, I feel would have made a bit of a difference today.
Yeah, and I think we'll get on to Aubameyang a little bit later. I think there's some harsh criticism on him, just a little bit, but he definitely, like George said, probably had a performance that he probably wants to forget, maybe, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Ainsley has been slowly growing over time. This is not, I don't think.
It's not new.
Yeah, it's not new. He's had some performances like this. I think one of them was against Leeds, was it not?
Leeds, even Palace. I'd say his cameos this season, he's been bubbling this season.
Yeah. He's 24 years old, coming into that pre-prime. I don't think 24 is your prime, but I think it's that pre-prime right before where you need to see what the player is about. And what we're seeing is that he's somebody that when, like George said, when he's switched on, he can be very, very valuable. And I think his passing in the first half was penetrative and was also going forward. I don't know. I have to rewatch the game, but I feel like maybe Sambi had the more reserved role and Ainsley had the more going forward role. But what he was also doing was he was defending so well. And the Watford players, you could tell he's coming of age. Those Watford players are nothing but brutes. I think that half of their game plan was beat us up. And some of our players were up for it. And some of our players were just a little bit, maybe because they're just not physically, they haven't grown into themselves physically yet. I think Sambi's one of those. Ainsley was in it. He was winning challenges. He was sliding in. His challenges were on time. I thought he was very good. And I thought he was switched on to the point where every ball was ours. Even when he hit the ball and it was called for a goal kick for the other team, he was bitching at the refs. I like that. He was switched on from moment one to the last minute. And so for me, although I'm not 100% sure that this is good enough to get us through that tough period in Jan, I do think he's a real contender for that position. And I'm just so happy for him this goes back to the myths that we talked about the other day, George, that, Arteta is a bad man manager. I think his management of Ainsley, where a couple months ago, he was on Instagram basically letting people know he wanted to leave the club. Remember? And Arteta had banished him from the team and all of this. And now he's playing minutes and looking good, playing in a position that he wants to. So it's still early days, but I think that that's a good indication of the feel-good factor at Arsenal. And, I think we did miss Thomas, but Ainsley definitely held his own weight, can't complain.
Yeah. Look, I love Ainsley. Everybody knows, even on these streams in the past, I consider him a midfielder that I would never want to get rid of. The only time I would want to get rid of this boy is if it was for him and his individual journey. Because let's look at the player right now. He is our best stand-up tackler in the squad, absolutely elite on the recovery. And the only issues that we've always ever had was not technical. It was concentration, awareness in the dribble. Is he able to track runners consistently? He can do it. He's shown it in fullback positions. He's very, very versatile, but in center midfield, he has everything technically that you would need in a midfielder. You're not going to teach Ainsley Maitland-Niles anything about football that he can't already do. The issue has always been his awareness, his timing of when to release the ball, his ability to kind of control space, when to vacate a zone, these kind of off the ball issues that, a lot of these young players have. But if he's going to be concentrated, a switched on Ainsley Maitland-Niles is the best Partey replacement. And I'll say it again right now for us in AFCON, a switched on Ainsley Maitland-Niles gives us the closest thing to a Thomas Partey presence in midfield, because you basically got somebody that is never going to be outrun, constantly on the dribble and able to play vertical passes. He totally can do that role. He's able to overlap on the wide wings. He could push our wingers inside. This is a guy that has had, I think now, over 100 Premier League experiences at 24. He's pre-prime, Jess, but he's an experienced pre-prime player. Like, he has had so much experience through Europa League, but also Premier League appearances that I think right now, if Arteta can crack that boy, and we have basically bought ourselves an asset, really, we have. And I think in January, the biggest thing that I worry about without Partey is controlling that center and controlling transition. And again, I think this was just a debut that showed that he can do that role. The thing with Sambi that you were mentioning before, I felt he was very one-touch, two-touch when he didn't need to be. We needed a little bit more maturity, calm on the ball, know when to spread it wide. I felt Ainsley did that a lot more. Probably the best example is when everybody was freaking out, Ainsley goes to the corner to waste time. Like, he knows, like, these are maturity aspects. And it's not that Lukunga can't do it. He just hasn't learned how to do that quite yet. He's still a little bit below on his experience curve. And I think that was the reason for the mismatch. When you were saying he was reserved, Jess, I think that was because he was nervous. Like, it was very one-touch, two-touch. It wasn't so much by design. I felt, while he dropped deep, we needed somebody just to control, take out possession really well. That's what Xhaka does very well. Nobody wants to say it and praise him, but that's what he knows how to control a game in that aspect. I felt Lukunga wanted to get rid of it really quickly. And, it was good that Ainsley was there. He was able to demand the ball. And so it worked well in this game, especially when you've got, what's his name, Kuka and Sissoko basically in the middle, who are just like brutes, So like you said, Jess, like they don't know how to play ball themselves. And look, the progression was always going to struggle with your kind of third or fourth choice, kind of center midfield partnership. They haven't played well together, but I just felt that what the other one lacked in the moment, the other one picked up in slack. And, when Ainsley was getting really tough about marking players, Lukunga grew into the game, and in the second half, held on to the ball a lot more. We saw a lot more penetration. And I think they switched, to your point, Jess. Like, they switched in the second half, where Ainsley became a little bit more of the sitter and Lukunga stepped up a bit more, which I believe was the plan from the start, because Ainsley is the more experienced player. But it didn't work that way, because our build-up had him basically in the back, with the Xhaka role. So maybe that was a little bit of a switch tactically in the second half. I did notice that. I don't know if anybody else did, but for me, we did change our build-up. It was much more Ben White and Gabriel, as opposed to Ben White, Gabriel, and Lukunga in the back. So, yeah, it was excellent. And he took care of Sarr amazingly.
Yeah.
Even Josh King, like in the middle, who was making himself a nuisance, too much praise for me on Ainsley, because it was awesome.
Ainsley was great. And Ify says, O'Malley says, I love how body checked Sarr and we scored off of it. And I think that leads very nicely into Ben White because Ainsley body checked Sarr. Then did White dribble the ball first and then Ainsley body checked, or was it the other way around? Because I think White was the last touch. Okay, so that goal was just players just barging themselves into zone 14 and making things happen, and ESR having some
Composing,
composure.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, really good. But Ben White, I mean, can we now say that he can defend? Can we now say that he's good in the air? Can we now say that he's doing what we asked him to do, what we expected him to do? Io, for you, defensively, how good was White in your mind? But how impressed were you in terms of what he was doing offensively, dribbling out of the back and being a part of the goal that ESR scored?
Yeah, no, that's what you get with him. We want somebody who's going to initiate the attacks from the back, and Ben White's showing that he can do that. I think it was just premature, some of the mutterings from the fan base about his ability in the air and yada yada yada. Now, we've now seen that he's a very, very competent, exciting centre back for me, and the partnership with Gabriel it's what you want to see. I mean, I am just really, 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 really pleased about that back line. No, I am, seriously. With Tomiyasu, I thought Tomiyasu just completely, I don't want to go off Ben White, but he impressed me with how he held Manuel. Like, Emmanuel couldn't do nothing. Yeah, he was under manners with Tomiyasu, and you've got him, you got Tavares, and now you've got KT coming back. I'm really pleased with that back line, and I think Gabriel and Ben White complement themselves really well. And I don't know what else to say, really. I think he didn't strike out to me as if he was under any major stress in that sort of game. But again, I don't think Watford really, I mean, how many shots on goal did they have? Or, I'm not even sure, really. But I don't think they were particularly, a threat to us. So I think it was a comfortable game for Ben White.
Yeah, I just want to
He looked
piggyback
calm.
because for me, yeah, he looked immense. Again, for me, he was very close to man of the match. That was his best performance in an Arsenal shirt. The only reason is just that mix-up with Ramsdale, whoever you want to attribute. But in terms of Ben specifically, his passing was immense, but his ball carrying, guys, how many times look, we said that Ainsley and Lokonga struggled to progress the ball, right? That's not a problem when you've got Ben White able to drive through your defensive line. And how many times did he take ownership? He took the ball. It was very, very mature. And, Josh King's a threat, in the air. He is their reference point, in terms of previews. When you're looking at Watford, they look to basically feed the ball into him and release Ismaila Sarr. Ben White was not giving him any joy. We know that nobody wants to go to Gabriel. He's a physical monster. But they tried to target White, and you know what? It didn't work. Ben White controlled his space. He grew into midfield. But again, I just feel as though we all know why he was criticized, Jess. Let's call a spade a spade. It was because he's not William Saliba. And you've got your agendas at that point. Let's be real. The boy has world-class potential, okay? And you can also have world-class potential in your youngster, William Saliba, as a fellow former Saliba season on Twitter. I am very well versed in the boy. I love the boy. But I can also call a spade and look at Ben White's performances and his performances this entire season. It wasn't just this game, the last game. Basically, ever since Brentford, he's been immense. He really, really has. And again, I think that partnership, this is, I think, the first time in maybe a couple years that we've been able to field our first choice center back in 8 games. And 8 results go our way.
Oh, wow, really? Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Yeah.
And I don't know how many years it's been, but it's been over 3 years that we've been in consistent consecutive games able to field our first choice center back pairing. And it makes a difference.
It
really
totally does. It totally does. Definitely.
Consistency. Yeah. And like the funny thing about this is that we're talking about Benjamin, that's what he wants to be called.
Benjamin,
but because he's still kind of on trial, like, you know what I mean, with some Arsenal fans. We're not even talking about Gabriel. We don't even need to go into Gabriel. Like, I was not worried about him at all. Exactly. I'm not worried about him at all. We're not talking about him. And like, it's just so nice to see Gabriel step into that role. But now Benjamin is also stepping into his own role, and they have different personalities, but they both lead in different ways. I'm happy that Ramsdale didn't have as active of a game today as he has in the last game. He was pretty in the background. But then I think we also can give like a special mention to Tomiyasu, because some of his defensive work and some of his work going forward was really, really good. And over the last couple
Love
of
him.
games, I love him too. And it's like defensively, we know he's that. We know he's really good, and that he was adapting. But today, I think was probably for me, he only got broke off one time, and I think it was by Sar. And like Sar
Mhm.
is so good. He only got broke off one time. This was to me his best performance for me, all around performance, because it was difficult. We were shaky. Defensively we weren't being panned, but we were still under some pressure. He went forward. He did his job. Like Tomiyasu is so good. He had some good defensive headers. I mean, we can give him an honorable mention as well, because I think he'll go under the radar because Ben was so good. And honestly, let's be real, Ben gave one of those to Southgate. That was one of those performances. But what about Tomiyasu, George? What did you think about his performance today? For me, it was his best performance in an Arsenal shirt. I know the Spurs one was amazing, but I think this one, for me, just edged it for some reason.
Yeah, I think he was a really good compliment. I think it returned his passing technique. I think the last couple games, particularly Brighton Palace, we saw uncharacteristic loose technical passes with Tomiyasu. And I think today was the first 90 minutes where I was like, okay, he's back. I saw that kind of Spurs, ability on the ball, his quick finding people. What he's really good at is, look, we all know the 1v1 defending. He's our best 1v1 defender, bar Gabriel, potentially, especially in isolation. We know the aerial ability that he's got. We know defensively, we don't have to worry about Tomiyasu. He's beaten the test, the allegations, whatever thing you want to say, trope on Twitter. He's good. He's good defensively. But I think in possession, I've struggled with him at times because, especially Palace and Brighton, I felt he was at fault for a lot of attacks being kind of, got out to dry on that side. But again, this game, it was immense. I just felt that he found Saka so quick. And that's what you need, right? When we look at our defense, it's not just that we have security in it, but we need to release the ball a lot quicker. And he gave the ball to Saka early. And I think that's what he wasn't doing before. And the passes between the lines on the floor were excellent. He fed Lacazette several times between the lines. He's fed Saka, like we said, wide. I think this was a very good technical performance. And I think it does get overshadowed by Ben, because I think Ben was so good. But what they all did as a defensive line was we played the high line well. How many times in preseason were people very worried about the high line implementation? This idea that we were basically able to compress space because we just pushed up. And, Ben was really good, but so was Tomiyasu in that, because Ismail Assar, guys, like he switched sides, remember? And so,
Yeah.
he wasn't, again, he wasn't getting joy. And, he had to switch sides. And, Tomiyasu didn't give him any other joy beyond that. So I felt the whole back line deserves some credit. Gabriel had some really good blocks himself. Look, Tavares was excellent. I just think that the defense, I don't worry about this team's conceding ever. I really don't. And I just haven't seen, I think, the level of cohesion that we expected. I think a lot of us on this channel, at least, said, listen, the reason that we've invested in our defense, much to the chagrin of many fans, by the way, was because we always felt that the technical security in the back line was what was lacking last season. And that's why we couldn't create chances. That's why our attack was so inefficient. And I just feel that as the games go on, yeah, we can get clean sheets, but, our performances are increasing because we have boys at the back that when things get tough, they can carry it into midfield. They can pass into midfield. They can reliably find their midfielders, but they're attackers, and they can do it early. And I think this is the reason, that our performances have been so good, right? You look at this one, it wasn't 1-0. Like, it was a 4-0. We left a lot of goals on that pitch. And I think the back line is really the reason for that. Aaron had his first mistake. Jess, you were saying he's due a
He was
clanger.
due. He was due. Yeah, he was due
Yeah,
one.
there was no goal. There was no goal. So
But there was
Exactly.
no
there you
goal,
go. There
and
you
look,
go.
again, you don't slam them, right? Like, he's been absolutely immense, but it was a mistake. So let's call it spade spade. It was a mistake. But I just think that this defensive line are trusting each other, and I think, again, having that 8 games of a consistent partnership, it's not just center back, but even with Tomiyasu at the back there, they're all new boys, Jess. Like, have you ever seen signings settle this quick? I don't think I've
It's
seen.
uncanny. It's uncanny. It's uncanny.
And this is what happens when you recruit profiles, guys. Like when you
Yeah, yeah.
recruit people to a role, yes, there's a level of adaptation. Yes, you don't know what you're going to get. There's a jeopardy in every transfer, but you basically reduce the probability of failing when you recruit a profile that's going to play to how you want to play. And Tomiyasu and Ben White, when you think about it, Ben would press, Tomiyasu would drop deep. Why is that
Yeah,
really good? Because we've got an aerial 1v1 duel expert that if Ben were to lose it, we're okay, we're secure, we're not in a basketball game. And then vice versa, when Ben hangs back and he passes long, Tomiyasu goes up and he releases the ball. It's a very complementary partnership. And yeah, I'm with Io too. I thought this was a very good game from him. Probably undershadowed by the Hollywood aspects of Ben White's game, but that whole back line
exactly.
was great.
But I
Yeah,
think
no,
that. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, Jess, I was on a couple months back just after the window closed and I was absolutely edu out. But I'm eating a big plate of humble pie because of Tomiyasu primarily. I mean, Ramsdale as well. I wasn't on his case about the Ramsdale signing, but Tomiyasu, I was really on the Emerson Royale train. So I did feel like we might have lost out there. But Tomiyasu, you know what? Edu in. I'll say that now. Edu in. I'll be, you know.
So the one thing I will say is that the the striking difference in our defense has also shined a light on other areas that we need to improve upon. And I think Arsenal fans are quite anxious to see the same type of impact that we've had with Ramsdale, White, Tomiyasu, Tavares, and Gabriel going forward as well. I think Sambi has had an impact, maybe not as grand as the ones in the back, but he's young, and we'll give him
Mm,
time. Up top is really
mm.
where I think, although Lacazette and Aubameyang really worked in those last couple of games, I don't feel like it was as successful today. And I think it was more because they weren't close together. As we kind of spoke about earlier, Lacazette was really, really far off on the right, trying to connect with Saka, and Aubameyang was somewhere off on the left kind of middle space. And so they weren't able to get those nice little combinations and clean ones that we were used to. And I found myself feeling like, okay, at some point we'll probably need Odegaard to come in. But more than that, I think, look, Aubameyang missed a penalty, and that's not great. This is the second one that he's missed. The first one was against Emmy, and Emmy saved it, and he got the rebound. I don't know if it's just a matter of he needs to switch it up, or it was just a poor penalty. It's something, but that was not great. The second one, well, actually, I want to go to the moment where he tried to do a bicycle kick. Can we just retire it? Like, I just feel like there was, against Aston Villa, he tried to do that. And had we had not been so dominant, we would have looked back and been like, why didn't you just head it in the back of the net? Then he tried to do it again today, and I'm thinking, if you make contact with whatever his name's head, you might have got a red card knowing Kevin Friend.
Yeah.
There's just little things. He didn't have a great performance. He was still energetic and in the game, but I saw towards even the end of the game, Arteta was standing on the sideline yelling at Aubameyang because he wasn't pressing anymore,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he just didn't have a great performance. And then
I thought it
I
was a game of two halves for him, I'll be honest, in a
didn't
sense
think he was
where
great.
on the ball, he was really bad. Like, he struggled quite a bit. But off it, he was pressing very, very well. And, he had sharp movement all game. But for him, it was just a day to forget on the ball. And, I don't think it was until the end where he got a little bit more technical security. But, even then, I just felt that he was isolated. Our strikers were isolated. I think a big part of that first half kind of indecision was what you said at first, Jess, not having people close together. We had Nuno that was kind of pressed up. He never really got the ball. And then Emile was floating and, he didn't really get into the game. It really took an Emile Ramsey-esque goal to get us to break the deadlock, right? And I think at the same token, we had a lot of half chances, but I think Aubameyang's game was just off to a bad start with that Saka offside goal. I knew from there, I go, yeah, he's going to have a tough day because
Yeah,
an
and
on-point
then
Aubameyang smashes that.
the Odegaard one as well. Like, I think there's just a little bit of like, and the thing is people are like, well, don't be so negative, let him live. This is the reality, you guys. He didn't have a good game. It's not negativity, it's the reality. Like, based on the last two games that he had, he didn't have a great game, and it's okay to say. But I think it's incredibly harsh to say that the Odegaard one, that he was at fault for that, because I just feel like any striker is trying
Any
to kick
striker
that in
does,
the
yeah.
back of the net. And so that's why I'm like, let's be specific about the issues that Aubameyang had today, and not just take every little thing that didn't go right for him as like it was bad. Penalty, should have made that. Didn't have a great game on the ball. Was a little bit not as turned on as he had been in the last 2 games. Just a little shaky. But I'm not going to let that
He
erase
had
the
an
work
off
that he
day.
did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
that's what
look,
I don't want to erase the last couple of games because he had a
yeah.
difficult one today. So we can just say he needs to sharpen up on his penalties. We definitely need a striker. I think there's no doubt in that at some point within the next 12 to 18 months, not even 6 to 12 months, we need a new striker. But Aubameyang has been good the last couple of games. So yeah, did he have he had a bad game today? Yeah, he did. He's probably the loser of today. I think we can just, it is what it is. But Io, did you want to add on that any at all, or
Yeah,
what
no,
do
I
you
think
have on?
I completely agree, and even I'd slightly disagree with George in that his pressing, I think, has been immense the last few games, but today that didn't even do it for me. I just felt like he was just off today. And the thing about Aubameyang, sometimes when he's off, he goes into I don't know how to describe it. It's not like I want to say childish, but I know it's not the right adjective. But he doesn't start looking serious. He sort of kind of just lets the game pass him by a little bit. He doesn't say, right, I need to get a grip of things. And, he just laughs and he looks a bit sheepish. And, it kind of then is reflected in how he goes about things. He just doesn't have that same kind of like on it. And, that's what I felt like with him today. I think, the first one where he passed it and Sakai was offside. Do I see, who can I think of? Do I see Salah or Mane doing something like that, so close to goal, so on goal? No, I don't. So am I expecting a bit more from Aubameyang? Yeah, probably am. So, things like that. And like George said, I guess when I saw that, I knew it might potentially be one of those days where he doesn't get on the score sheet and he doesn't deliver really. And he didn't, unfortunately.
But you know what? Look, Watford are one of his favorite opponents. I mean, look, it can have an off day. I think the biggest criticism I'd actually have at Mikel was who's on penalties, because I don't feel that Oba's had a good record, period. It's not just today. It's not just this season. I've never felt confident in Oba
I
basically
was
being the
surprised
penalty.
Laka didn't take it. I was surprised Laka didn't take it because Laka's quite decent at pens,
That,
Let's be
well, that's what I
real.
was going to
Ainsley
say.
should have taken it.
Yeah,
Ainsley
Oh
should have taken
yeah,
it. Let's be real.
it is Ainsley or him, but look,
No,
I think
seriously,
Lacazette
Ainsley
is
should have taken it.
undisputed. You
Yeah,
know,
Ainsley should have taken it. End of. Ainsley should have taken that pen. End of. Like seriously, we
But it was
know
always
how
going to be either
Ainsley
Laka
is.
or Abba, wasn't it?
it should
But
be
Lacazette
Lacazette though,
maybe should be
Jess,
taking
because
it.
even if you look at his, his Leon days, he's an immense penalty. There really isn't much better penalty takers than Lacazette. And for me, if he's on the pitch, he has to be the undisputed one. And I think that's a coaching decision, right? Like I understand that there's some dynamics in the dressing room. Strikers want their goals. Oba wants his goals and his goal tally, but for me, Lacazette needs to be the undisputed penalty taker. And as a coach, you need to be the one that's saying that. For me, if they're on the pitch together, Lacazette has to take the penalties, because I think that's a poor decision. That's a coaching decision in my opinion. But yeah, look, on Oba
Yeah,
again,
and this,
poor loser for me of the game. But again, one-off game. I'm not gonna kind of whitewash what he's done this
So,
season, because he's been
so
really, really good.
someone put in
he,
the chat he seemed hungover, and I kind of hear that energy. He did
he
seem a
just
little
wasn't
bit.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
He
off.
was nowhere near as bad as he was kind of like last season, where people were really going in on him.
No, no.
Oh yeah.
He's on
Yeah.
form. He
He
made some
weren't there.
mistakes. We won the game. We can kind of move on from it. But I'm very like, let's not go overboard. He needs to be making those penalties. But I do want to have just like a section just on this young man here. We didn't really mention him in the winners, and like I did that on purpose because I think he needs to go in a whole different category. I don't even think Emile Smith Rowe has been having as good of games as he possibly can. The difference now is that he's still getting goals, even though he's not having like, I just feel like, I think some of that was also him being so deep and so off of the left in this game. I don't think he's close enough to Bukayo. Personally, for me, I think Saka and Bukayo play best when they're closer together. And I think that they were so far away. He didn't have that connection, and Aubameyang really wasn't there. Sambi was too far deep. Ainsley was behind him. So it was like, where do I pass? And Saka was too far off. But Emile Smith Rowe, 3-3. He's keeping up with Conor Gallagher. I think the both of them are playing at a level
Fabulous seasons.
they
so
should
far.
be getting. They should be really close to that the England first team. And I was like, okay, Conor Gallagher scores, you have to score. Like, I know that's not the right way to think about it, but I'm like, he scored, so you need to score. But that guy is crazy. His composure in front of goal this season has been so much better than last season. He skies that last season, or hits it wide, or hits the post. This time he's just doing what Arteta asked him to do and what we've been asking him to do. And I think he deserves a section all on his own, because he's not at his physical peak. He's 20 years old. He shouldn't even be this good. Last season, he couldn't play a full 90. This season, he's playing 90 after 90 after 90 after 90. Well, he didn't play 90 today, but he was very close to playing 90. He looks so quick. He's pressing, winning his duels. Like, the guy's been crazy. Like, if you look at his defensive contribution, I'm sure he's up there as well. Like, the guy's crazy, so I think he deserves a section all on his own. What do you think, George?
He does. Look, I got a lot of stick for my comparisons and my evaluation of Emile Smith Rowe, and from other channels, never on here, because here we've been always very, very high on Emile. And I think since preseason, he's been shooting way, way more. And, we kind of highlighted there's a potential for him to explode as a goal-scoring midfielder. I've always felt that he's an attacking midfielder, true to the core, down the center. He's going to get you goals in the mold of a James Maddison. He's going to be that type of center midfielder, and maybe not do the Hollywood pass that, an Odegaard would like between the lines, but he's going to be a ball-carrying, physical presence that will get you goals. And, I just think he's been exploding for me. People like to compare them between Saka and him in terms of who's exploding more, which I find a little bit ridiculous. But on Emile, this guy has the potential to be one of the best attacking midfielders in the league. And I find it a credit that, he's getting consistency and output, because that was the last thing. He hasn't even sorted physically. Like, physically, he's not developed. And for me, that's a very scary thought, because he's still among the best dribblers in the league, both in efficiency and his ability to do it in different thirds of the pitch. I think Jamie Carragher said recently he's probably one of his favorite players on the ball to watch. And it's because he's just so secure, and he understands where to be. And he's finally arriving into the box, because, Jess, that's now 2 in 2, yes, an output, but that's 2 late arrivals. That's movement. That is all movement driven, where if you watch that goal, guys, it's so purposeful. Like, I hate to heap praise this much, but he starts wide left, drifts into the center, and explodes, anticipating where the ball is going to be. And yes, you have to trust your teammates to get you there, but his ability to do that twice now, that's smelling goals. That's maturity. That's you anticipating where the ball's going to be. That's not a youngster being lucky. He's in the right place at the right time, and he's got his shooting boots on. This is purposeful movement. And so, yeah, for me, he's just been absolutely immense all season. And he's been like this since preseason. I felt he would continue to score goals. I said he would get 15 goals and assists in the Premier League. Many people laughed. He's 6 now? Less than a third of the matches played. So, yeah, we have something special here, and we should facilitate it. We should be building around these boys, and look, Emile and Saka, they have a special relationship. So I've always felt that he would be more superstar out of the young Hale ends. And, he's been looked at for a long time, Jess. Like, he's, in terms of people in the academy, even Bukayo has said, he's been regarded as the best player for a while. And I just think it's all been injury. It's been lack of physical development that we haven't seen it sooner. But yeah, this boy is taking this team. Like, it's his team now. Like, I think he's doing what Bukayo had last year, where Bukayo had to almost earn and say, yep, this is my team now. Emile's in that trajectory right now. Even if they're at different levels, they're at different ages, he's now becoming almost like he feels that he's worth it. He's not the kid that's been called up. This is now a bona fide starter. And I think he's just taking it in stride. So, yeah, onwards and upwards, I feel that he definitely gets towards that 15 goal and assist mark.
Yeah. Io, for you, when Emile was given the number 10 shirt, there was a lot of backlash and some people feeling like he wouldn't be able to fill those boots. We've had some iconic number 10s over the years, and he's 20 years old, given the number 10. You know, it's something that some people felt like Odegaard might have deserved already. Do you think he's holding that number 10 jersey, or the number 10, you know, that number well so
Yeah.
far, because there's a lot of pressure. People think that numbers don't mean anything, but the number 7, the number 10, those do mean something. So what do you think?
Yeah, no, I hear you. The numbers obviously do mean things to fans and from players of past. And Emile, it's not lost on Emile. Emile knows what he needs to do, but then again, he has that talent and he's showing it now more and more so, especially being such an attacking threat. For me personally, I look at it like, he needs to be that Perez to Saka's Ljungberg. That's how I see those guys as being, you know, having a period now of history that they make their own at Arsenal in terms of their ability to just step up and deliver as they mature. With Emile, yeah, I think we all agree. You look at him; he's a boy. You can see his diet probably isn't 100% in terms of, how he takes it. But then he's a boy as well. He A boy wants to be a boy as much as he is an elite professional footballer. Or he's trying to be. He's still, there are going to be some boys that are like going to be like, oh, today I want to eat some chocolate or some junk or whatever. You can see with Emile that he's probably doing that. But then again, Arteta's come out and said that he's seen real big improvements in terms of that side of things, his nutrition and how he's, taking care of himself. And, hopefully he continues to develop and become, a proper athlete. And he's definitely added the goals now. I always knew he could. Like, anybody who watched him in under 23s, yeah, anybody who's watched him, I remember people saying, oh, or some people online or whatever, oh, he can't shoot, whatever. I'm like, have you watched him in under 23s? Anybody who's watched him in under 23s or who watched him when he was there would know that is not his problem. Yeah, he just needs maybe a bit more confidence to, when he gets into those spaces, to just trust himself, really, to bang it. And we're seeing that more and more now. And I think, as with anything in life, when you do things more, as in he's playing now at the highest level, in the senior team, when you do things more and they come off, then it just becomes natural and your talent just meets up with your, ability not to be fearful of, okay, what if I miss or what if it doesn't go to plan? And I think with Emile, we're seeing that now. We really are seeing that. So I agree with George. Like 15 goals, I think, yeah, I
You
think he
can,
can do that. 15 goals, I
you can
think he
do
can do
that.
that. You know.
And
And he's
Yo-Yo's
tripling and
says,
doubling his creative numbers. Like, it's not just the output. Like, sometimes I'm very wary about purple patches and youngsters and people breaking into the team. Like, you start to look at his touches in the opposition box, they're far up already on the season in average. His dribbles completed are already doubled from last season. His shots on target tripled from last season. His overall shot patterns, not just on target, quadrupled, in terms
yeah,
of, his numbers. Like, this is a guy that isn't just, scoring goals from output. He's affecting play everywhere else. And so, yeah, he's immense.
yeah. Yo-Yo said that very fortunate to have Saka and ESR at the club, have to take advantage of this. And that's pretty much what it's all about, is facilitating their growth and building a team around them. And I think we've done that to a certain extent. It definitely needs to continue. There are questions around, what does the attack look like? Do we need another central force in at center forward? But all of that aside, um, Saka and ESR have been game changers for us, and not only just us, but Arteta's career. You think about the way that managers are getting sacked left and right, left and right. Had Saka and ESR not been integrated, last season, think about where we would have been if we had still relied upon, the Williams and those guys. It really has changed the outlook on this club, and it started last season, and now we're almost a year from that. We're 1 month away from them being integrated, you know, into this team, and it's been awesome watching them grow. So it's not just about ESR. ESR is obviously the man of the moment, but it's Saka as well. and we owe a lot to them. And it's just nice to see kids from Hale End getting their flowers. But one more
Amen.
loser. One more loser that we do have to talk about is Kevin Friend. I thought he did an awful job officiating the game today. I thought that he was card happy.
Plonker.
Yeah, I mean, we had 2 fouls, 2 yellows. It took them a long time to get on some yellows, and I think had they had like Danny Rose and some of their other players had yellows earlier, they would have had reds. I'm not sure how the challenge on Lacazette wasn't a card or anything at all, that ended up with the penalty, and he's a joke. Like, he was so bad. But it doesn't matter as much when we win. But then I think about if we had not gotten the points, how poorly that game was refereed. And I mean, we have some bad referees, but he was horrendous today.
The thing is though, Jess, the thing is, do we have any good referees? This is what I hate about Arsenal in terms of how we're treated. Like, I never see a referee that referees a game, officiates a game for us, and I think, okay, yes, he's gonna be at least fair. It's like all of them. I don't know what's going on with the club and referees, and I don't want to just sound like a deluded Arsenal fan, but I always feel like there's some referee trying to take the piss, especially at home. When you think, I'm not even asking for advantage, but when you think about how every other big top 6 team, they get a bit of respect when they play at home from the referees. It's very subtle, it's very subconscious, but we all know it's there. Certain decisions, certain way the referees officiate the game, they give you that kind of, all right, you're a big dog, you're at home, I'm gonna, like, not, but with Arsenal, it feels like every single referee, I don't even want to make it about Kevin Friend, because I feel like it's all of them really. They all take liberties with us, in my opinion, and it's annoying because today it was just so brazen. It just, anyway. Sorry.
I think that transition, though, guys, is, and we've talked about it in the summer, Jess, too. It's about reclaiming your big club status back, and just factually as a club, we've regressed. We have, and so I think the refs suck. They always have. The reffing in this country has always been very, very questionable. With Arsenal as a history too, I don't even want to get into conspiracy theories, but the idea that we haven't been targeted is foolish, for decades. But I feel as though that those 50-50 decisions, they go your way when you are competing for trophies and in top 4. And I think that's a big transition that we need to work to, because as we get good and we maintain this form, I believe that there'd be pressure, right? You'd like to believe that those 50-50s, they start to come your way. Liverpool, City, they all get it too. You know what I mean? Like, those transition fouls, they're not yellow cards, they're talking to. Those are probably the difference that you're looking, that we'll probably want to claim sooner rather than later. But I think that only comes with us being in the top 4, us being in deserved conversations. Because look, the whole media have said that we're crap. It's not just, a large portion of our fans. Everybody wrote us off. And, just factually, we're competing right now. We're in the top 4 hunt. Again, relegation, Arsenal are above title challengers United. I love that narrative because it wasn't just fans peddling it. It was pundits galore. So, yeah, but Kevin Friend is a special one.
Yeah. I mean, it's been an amazing turnaround. And now I think, West Ham are now beating Liverpool. this is Barclays. This is Pete Barclays right now. Like, this is insane.
Alisson Flappy. Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm sure that we'll get back onto the football for today, and there's some other games to watch. But I really enjoyed this instant reaction. I think it's nice to talk about another win, 3 wins in a row, 10 unbeaten, a shit ton of
come on, the Arsenal.
Come on, you Gunners. It's great. And we did hit 5K during this stream, so thank you guys so much for all of your support, share,
amazing. That is, can I just say a little something, Jess? Like, guys, Jess, I've known her from when she first had this idea to do this, and she just blown it out of the park. I'm so proud of her. She works so hard. Like, a lot of you guys who watch this, you don't know how much work she puts in. Like, this is her life. Like, she loves the club. Like, she legit loves the club. So just keep supporting her. She's just doing amazing content. Just so privileged to be on here with you, Jess. And just want to say, I love you. I know all the guys, Sauls, Speak for George as well, and the other guys, they love what you're doing. Just keep on going, man. Well done.
Yeah, I want to piggyback because look, Jess gave me my chance. She picked me out of like obscurity and basically gave me an opportunity to do this YouTube thing. And like, look, this channel is its growth has been just so humbling. And like, Jess, you're a shining light in the community right now, and like you're gonna change things, in this space. So it more than deserved. I think it was a long time coming, but road to 10K, we move past 5K, we look ahead.
We move for
It's
sure.
amazing. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Like, this is an awesome milestone. And yeah, almost a year in this game, and the channel is flying. So thank you guys so much. And thank you to all the members and all you guys that just show up. I love it. We're going to be back tomorrow. Hopefully Souls can come in and give us an exclusive on what it was like being at the Watford game, because he actually went to his first Arsenal game today. He was able to
Big
meet
up
up with
Souls.
Albert and I think Dan Potts and the people from Cannon Chatter. Like, amazing for him. He sent me some videos, so I'm gonna go look at them now. But make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this with a friend, and we'll see you guys tomorrow, 10 p.m. UK time for the post-match show. And yeah, get in the comment section, let us know what you thought about winners and losers, and we'll see you guys there. Bye, guys.